This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some breaking news last night. But Ronna McDaniel is stepping down as the chair of the RNC, and which is surprising to me. But we'll go through that. Also, Donald Trump is asking people to give Bud Light a second chance. So there's some people who are automatically flipping and saying, yes, we need to give Bud Light a chance again after, because they were canceled basically after the Dylan Mulvaney thing. A lot of people boycotted and they lost a bunch of money, etc. And there's some people who are Trump supporters who are like, I'm going to vote for Trump, but I'm still not going to drink Bud Light. So we'll talk about his reasoning and so on. And also Gina Carano is suing Disney. Elon Musk put it out there that he's willing to fund different people having lawsuits for Disney and other stuff if they've been wrongly terminated. And so when he first mentioned this some time ago, I'm like, okay, Gina seems like she would be a fine candidate for such a thing. And so she is suing Disney, and not for like a ton of money. So I wonder if they just expect maybe if they can get a bit of money out of court with some kind of settlement. I don't know how that will turn out, but her situation was pretty crazy. It was something we've covered on the show, and it's one of I guess it's not a viral video, but one of my videos that did okay was talking about the Gina Carano situation and the top takeaways from it, because I learned a lot, at least when she was explaining her situation and how kind of the woke mob works within Disney. And since then, we've only learned kind of more terrible things about the company and the climate within there. So, and the last thing I want to cover, I believe anyway, is Nikki Haley competed and was the only candidate on the ballot in Nevada as far as primary goes. And she lost to the option like someone else, like other candidates. So kind of brutal there. But you know what? I think if Democrats had another option or whatever, I think a lot of people would pick that as well. So we'll talk about that. So before we jump into everything, I would encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It does cost a stream and run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support. I do very much appreciate that. If you guys are watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. And if you're watching it back later, you guys can still send stars on Facebook, or you guys can send super thanks on YouTube. And again, in case anything gets demonetized or stuff, the super thanks and stuff really does help. But you guys can just go directly to the website and support that way. You guys can also check out the merch that we have available at the store, like the Black Tea mug. We got this funny and humbling "You Are Not That Special" shirt you guys can get. Humble someone in your life. I do have other books and stuff that I've written that you guys can check out. If you just search my name on Amazon, you'll find my stuff. I have 17 books you guys can check out. 2 are nonfiction. The rest are fiction, ranging from stuff for like middle grade chapter books to like adult and I guess new adult rather. But I do have picture books where we're still working on like the pictures and stuff. And I look forward to one day having some stuff out for some younger readers. Because sometimes they're intimidated by all the words and they see like, I don't have a super kid down here, but man, I just thought of this story all of a sudden. So one time a family came to my table and I started pitching my super kid series, and the family seems really excited, but the youngest child, they looked at the book, they picked it up, the first one, and they look and they're like, this is just all words. And he was just like disgusted. And it was like he sucked the whole fun out of the family. And that was like the end of it. And I'm just like, it's not a hard read. Like, they were just kind of gone. So anyway, the kids who do like it, pick it up and enjoy the challenge, I guess, say that it's epic. Usually 8 to 10 is usually the sweet spot for the book, but I've had kids anywhere from like 6 to 12 really pick it up and read it and really enjoy it. So you guys know your kids' reading level, I guess, but 8 to 10 is usually kind of more where it's at. But anyway, check out my stuff. Before I hop into the stories, I do want to mention yesterday I was on the radio. It was a Sirius or iHeartRadio maybe station or something, but it was stationed down in like Atlanta, not Atlanta, Alabama, and my sister covered for someone on their show, so she asked me to come on. So we did talk yesterday, so maybe you caught me on the radio. She asked me about the article I wrote about Nikki Haley and some comments that were made about her skin color and so on. So we talked about that. If you haven't read that article, I recommend you go to the website, check that out. We talked about the 50 Cent thing with him saying maybe Trump is the answer and the illegal aliens coming to New York City and getting the cards for their food, which we talked about yesterday on the show. If you didn't catch that episode, you can go back and watch it. We talked about the cases with the electors in Michigan and some other things. So it was a interesting discussion that we had, and so I was glad to be on. So thanks to my sister for wanting to have that conversation. So hopefully I reached a new audience down there. First thing I want to talk about is this Nikki Haley thing. Let's just get it out of the way. So Nevada, you know that Trump was removed like from the ballot. So they weren't going to wait for some kind of like situation. They had like a plan in place. And so Nikki Haley, it was the only person on the ballot because, Ron DeSantis ended up, he dropped out of the race some time ago. And so she's the only one going steady, trying to dethrone Trump. And with Nikki Haley and the option of someone else, Nikki Haley did not win. So even though there was her name and no other named person on the ballot, because they would not let you write in Trump. They wouldn't let that happen or whatever. So people still opted to pick the other option. So that's pretty rough. Kind of funny to most people, I guess. Find it funny. But some people were like, well, if we had that option in the general election, someone else might do pretty well as well. And so people were like, no, that's not true. That's not true. Trump would take that and basically the people who of course picked another option in the primary in Nevada obviously wanted Trump and not Nikki Haley, right? That's the thing. But if it was an option in the general election, you got to think Trump is going to take majority of the Republican vote, obviously, and Biden would take the majority of the Democrats. But if there was an option for just someone other than these two people, they would just have to get more than the other two people. So it's something to think about, I guess. An interesting thought experiment. Of course, that's not going to happen. And Biden, another conversation. I think we didn't have this on the radio, but me and my sister were talking afterwards about Democrats and how they really play the long game. Because I'm like, Biden's immigration policy is just crazy. Because there's many people who don't like Trump's style. I think we did talk about this on the radio. People don't like Trump's style. They don't like his mean tweets. They don't like some of the policy things that he's done. And I'm talking about people from like the right. So there's people who are going to vote for him. There's people who passionately love him, but some people are going to be like, I'm going to vote for him. But there's some people who don't want to vote for him at all. So if the Democrats had some kind of like super competent, competitive person to run against Trump, maybe they would do pretty well, especially with like all the legal stuff that they basically set up to be election interference, right? So or at least rig it in a way so it makes it hard for Trump to win. Um but Biden is so bad that people are like, you know what? You got 50 Cent saying maybe Trump is the answer. So you had Stephen A. Smith saying, thinking that Democrats are going to lose because Biden is basically a disaster. And they see situations in New York where they're like, they're giving people who shouldn't be here cards for food and letting them live in hotels and stuff. And there's people living on the streets. Like there's veterans who aren't taken care of. So people see these things and they get upset and they're like, I don't like these Democrats. Now, I said I don't know if people are going to run over and all of a sudden be like, I'm going to check the box for Trump, or if they're going to be like, I don't like these people, I'm not showing up. But if there's a lot of minorities who don't show up, that's a chunk of the voting base for Democrats. They don't have that support. Trump could just win on like people being disappointed and apathy toward Biden. And I'm like, not the only thing he has to do, but a big thing he could do is just roll back the things that he took away, like with the Remain in Mexico and stuff, with Trump, like things that he did like day one. All he has to do is just get some wisdom all of a sudden, find some common sense about the border and show people that he's not going to be dedicated to go down on not just a sinking Titanic. Let's just say it's inflamed, doused in oil, crude oil while it's going down. Like he's so determined. But I think the reason for that is that Democrats, they play the long game a lot of the time. And they don't care if maybe they have to take it on the chin once or twice for the loss, if they can make some kind of major change that will benefit them in the long term. Republicans, like conservative, they'll change things like incrementally. Democrats, stuff, they'll do things big leaps to the point where they don't think that you can undo it. Like after Obamacare was passed, people kept saying they were going to repeal it. Didn't really do it. I mean, there's like different things that they undid, like the mandate, for example, but they didn't really like keep their promises to try to get rid of it after a lot of people campaign on it. And basically the Democrats kind of knew like if they could get that in place, it's not going to basically be undone. So even though there's some Democrats who lost some seats and they did take it on the chin after Obamacare was passed, the point is they got it passed. The point is that they made a really big change. And I think with the immigration stuff, even though with the election, they're going to take it on the chin. It looks like they're going to take it on the chin. Even though there's like the perfect kind of setup for them to be able to defeat Donald Trump or whatever, the immigration stuff is so bad. It's so bad that they will probably still lose, the Democrats. But I think they're willing to do that because if all these people come in, these guys are their new voting base. And they expect them to keep voting Democrat. They're going to fill in areas where maybe they lost some seats with migration because like, oh, New York is crazy or whatever. Okay, well, we have all these new people here though. I mean, they don't want to right now. There's so many people coming, it's a burden to their system. But I've seen Democrats say, hey, we're losing our numbers for the Electoral College or whatever for our population. We could use these people. I've seen Democrats say that. So, I mean, like elected officials. So if their goal is just bringing these people in, and they'll deport some of them. They'll deport perhaps a lot of them, but there's over the 3 years or so that Biden's been president, there's been at least 6 million that we probably have an estimate of. It's probably higher of folks coming in. Are they going to just get rid of them all? I don't think so. I don't even think if Trump comes in, he's going to do that, just to be frank. So even if they have to lose this election because of their border policies, it's worth them doing it. Now they're trying to like soften the blow by pointing the finger at Republicans and saying, "Hey, it's these guys who actually don't want to solve the problem." And there'll be sycophants or whatever who listens to that mumbo jumbo and just believes that. But the truth is, I think most people know the buck stops with the president, and no, it's his fault. And they haven't really wanted to solve the problem. It was definitely they people didn't like Trump's methods so much under him, but they see that was kind of it's out of control now. So perhaps Trump had kind of a point back when he was the president. So, but they'll take it on the chin. Comment. Yes, they do play the long game. They've been talking about war with Iran since 9/11. People play long games. For sure, for sure. I mean, I was talking to my sister. I went back to like, you know, civil rights and stuff. I'm like, there's Democrats who weren't even for that, and then they're like, you know what? But we can have these so and so's voting for us for the next 100 years or whatever they said, if we just kind of change our tactics on that. So they make adjustments really quick if they have to for the long game. And so, despite being the party with so many bad associations throughout history to the African American community, they have a loyal voting base that'll vote for them over like 80%. It's crazy because they'll make the adjustments. How many like big like plays can you think of like Republicans making? The most ballsy thing I can think of that Republicans did as of late, perhaps maybe ever, I don't know, was I guess the whole keeping Garland out and waiting until the next election and just not allowing Garland go through the confirmation hearings and the votes and stuff. Like, nope, we're gonna wait. We're gonna let the American people decide. That was probably the ballsiest kind of move that they had in a minute. And it was risky. Gosh darn, it was risky. It was risky. But you could say, well, the conservative judges overturned Roe v. Wade. That took 50 years. 50 years to overturn a terrible ruling that people acknowledge was a terrible ruling. Ginsburg was like, I support abortion, but it's not a great ruling. Shouldn't be wrapped up in privacy, but like it 50 years. And we're still dealing with that particular issue. And I know there's a lot of talking points, but it kind of seems like that was a big victory for the right. Well, not just the right. There's people who are, not on the right, but they don't like abortion. But for people who want justice for the preborn or whatever, that was a big step. But there's so much work to be done. I don't want to get sidetracked, I guess, with that. But the Democrats are way better with the long plan, the long term, taking the hits on the chin in order to achieve long term goals. They're better at being uniform with their stuff. Like the Republicans, they just ain't got it together. They just ain't got it together. I could probably give you a lot of reasons why you don't want to vote for a Democrat. There might be a shorter list for why you feel compelled to vote for Republicans. I can give you a good reason why I am a Republican, for party platforms and the beliefs and the things that we're supposed to espouse. But as far as like the party having their stuff together, the people having their stuff together and achieving those goals, you might be like, man, I'm really frustrated with these people. But you vote a particular way because you don't like the other side. That's kind of what it at least feels like to me a lot of the time. Republicans got to do, they got to get better. They got to get more strategic with this stuff. Before I move on to the Bud Light thing, I just want to really quickly talk about the Gina Carano situation. So if you're unfamiliar with Gina Carano played Lord uh Dune. No, not Lord Cara Dune. I'm sorry. On the Mandalorian show. I did not watch the Mandalorian. This is in my age of not really watching. I don't know if this was in my age of not watching Disney pretty much altogether, or if this was just like a I'm done with Star Wars phase. I'd have to look at the dates. But she was on the show The Mandalorian. And so she uh started tweeting some things that Disney didn't like, and Disney got rid of her. And the story about what them getting rid of her and her interviews and conversations through that whole debacle are pretty interesting. She did an interview with Ben Shapiro some years ago after all that happened. Um, I did a video. You can go back through my videos about Gina Carano and that whole situation. And I did a video. It was like 5 top takeaways from the Gina Carano situation. And so Gina basically was getting older and just thinking about, I need to kind of take politics and things more seriously. So she just started to do some research, and she did a tweet because people were like pressuring like what are your pronouns, what are your pronouns, what are your pronouns. This is kind of like in the height of people really kind of starting to put that on social media. And so she replied to people, I guess, demanding people kind of to do that, to just writing beep bop boop in her bio for her pronouns, and people got really mad when she had tweeted that out. And so Disney was upset and they wanted her to basically go through they wanted her to apologize a certain way. And she was like, okay, well, I want to apologize authentically. Like, I want to explain where I'm coming from, etc. And they're like, well, we want you to like, they have special LGBT like reps for this kind of stuff within the company to handle this stuff, and had these conversations with her. So what they wanted to do was they wanted her to basically get on a Zoom call with a bunch of LGBT people to have what I would think would be a struggle session where they just come in and lecture and denounce the white woman. And then she's supposed to shed some tears and talk about her privilege a bit and how she's learned more or whatever. I'm assuming if this had gone in the way they probably hoped. And she was just kind of like, you know what? How about instead of getting on the Zoom call with all these people, I just take a couple of people out to dinner. I can look into their eyes and they can look into my eyes, and we could just have a conversation, right? That sounds kind of reasonable, don't you think? People sitting down, having conversations, you saying your piece, me saying my piece, and we can maybe meet in the middle, or maybe we can't meet in the middle, but we can kind of understand each other where we're coming from. And maybe you don't agree with me, but you can say I'm not a monster or something, or whatever people are saying online. So it sounds rational to me, but Disney, what didn't like it. So that's basically, I believe, from her uh uh story, basically the last that kind of Disney talked about it. And basically, I think the last they kind of talked to her, they kind of cut off communication a bit. So during like the COVID situation, she tweeted out something, and I got to paraphrase. I have an article about it somewhere, but it was essentially talking about people snitching on their neighbors, and there was like a reference to the Holocaust. And so Disney, particularly Lucasfilm, announced like Gina Carano no longer works for us, and that's basically how she found out she was fired. And but not only did they announce that she was fired, they said that she was disrespecting the Jewish community, and like making fun of their religion and other kind of stuff like that. It was a really weird statement that was untrue from Disney. And yeah, she found out she was fired the same time we all found out she was fired. So after that, Ben Shapiro reached out to her, said, hey, we could make a movie, which, to be honest, I didn't love the movie. But um quality was good, I guess, but I wasn't into it so much. I watched it with my mom and my older sister, and we just weren't feeling it, but we did support. um, and I do wish Gina all the best, but they it's messed up how they got rid of her. So anyway, Elon Musk had announced that he wants to fund people who were like fired from Disney. Um, in some kind of fashion that was unfair over some woke stuff. And so I guess Gina has taken him up on the offer. So I'm going to go ahead and read her tweet, and then we will move on. And Gina is not the only person, because there's some people from ESPN who had some takes who Disney didn't like either. So there's potentially some more people out there that Elon, who is obviously has a lot of money, can fund this stuff. And I would assume Elon's goal in funding these things and making Disney a huge corporation pay and have to go through the courts with this stuff is to put this in the news and to basically put other companies on notice to knock it off, to knock off this woke stuff, to just kind of force it out of society. So if that is the ultimate goal, which I assume it's got to be beyond kind of trolling these big companies, is admirable, and I appreciate it. And that's Elon, doing something else, for putting himself out there to do something to better humanity. I don't always agree with Elon's takes. There was one about carbon tax he did the other day that I did not appreciate, but he does do good things. I appreciate him buying Twitter, and not even all of his like policies or things that he implements on Twitter is great. There's some things that are amazing, like community notes, for example. But he ultimately he wants to do the good thing, he wants to do good things, and not just talk about doing good things. He wants to do good. And I think that's good, because there are a lot of people who want to appear good and not be good, which he's spoken about before. So I'm not saying he always knows what is good, but he genuinely wants to seek and do good. Anyway, today is an important day for me. I'm filing a lawsuit against Lucasfilm and Disney after my 20 years of building a career from scratch during the regime of former Disney CEO Bob Chapek. Lucasfilm made this statement on Twitter, terminating me from The Mandalorian. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. I thought maybe she would have had doors to kind of open to sue Lucasfilm and Disney for just defamation. And I didn't know how strong of a case she had or how much money she had to go with that, but uh I'd probably add that beyond like the wrongful termination. Nothing, because her tweet, and she doesn't have it pulled it up, and I don't have a picture of it right now, but it was not her coming after people because of their religious identities or anything. It really smeared her in a really ridiculous way, which is interesting because Disney's tiptoeing and wanted her to have a struggle session over her tweet with a beep bop boop. But when it comes to firing someone, an employee on freaking Twitter, they don't have more sense about how they do it. So I think that it's a good thing that they are getting a little taste of their own medicine. We'll see how successful she is, but I always thought there was a door open for her to go after them. After my 20 years of building a career, I already said that. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is I was being hunted down for everything I posted, to every post I liked, because I was not in line with acceptable narrative of the time. My words were consistently twisted to demonize and dehumanize me as an alt-right wing extremist. It was a bullying smear campaign aimed at silencing and destroying and making an example out of me. The thing is, I never even used to use aggressive language. I shared thought-provoking quotes, pictures, memes, and occasionally I used my own words, not with aggression, but with respect and the occasional comedy to keep the mood light in dark times. Look with your own eyes at what I posted and ask yourself, for example, where did I compare Republicans to the Jewish people in the Holocaust? I didn't. Ask yourself why they were calling me a racist. Was there any merit behind that or history of it whatsoever? No. Look at why I was called a transphobe for making droid noises from Star Wars, beep, bop, boop, was obviously directed to the online bullies and did not in any way denigrate transgender people. Were my questions about mass lockdowns and forced vaccines okay to ask and push the subject into the light? Should we have been allowed to publicly dismiss those topics at the time without being harassed and censored? Absolutely. Hollywood says they support female representation and equal rights. Why then were my male co stars permitted to speak without harassment and re education courses or termination, but I was not afforded the same right to exercise my freedom of speech? She's probably talking about Pedro Pascal. Uh, who's had some choice words for half the country. Artists do not sign away our rights as American citizens when we enter into employment. I have spoken to all my co-stars since I was fired, and there is nothing but care and kind words between us. I respect their right to free speech and do not have to think the same on every issue to be their friends and work with them. And I know they feel the same towards me. A couple months ago, Elon Musk tweeted that if you had been fired from using the platform X for exercising your right to free speech, he would like to offer these people legal representation. Quite the noble offer, but never in my wildest dreams would I have thought anyone would take my case against Lucasfilm/Disney. Still, I did not respond back. I think I qualify, and thousands of people agreed, but I did not expect anything. To my surprise, a few months ago, I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, after sending them as much information as I could gather on these past few months, my now lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward. I would like to express my deepest gratitude and thank you to Elon Musk and X for giving me an opportunity to bring my case to light. As for me, I would love to pick up where I left off and continue my journey of creating and participating in storytelling, which is my utmost passion and everything I work so hard for. It has been difficult to move forward with the lies and labels stuck on me, backed and encouraged by the most powerful entertainment company in the world. I'm grateful someone has come to my defense in such a powerful way and look forward to clearing my name. Thank you to all the people who have supported me and made your voices heard. I pray God blesses each and every one of you. With love, Gina Carano. And I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing that the lawyers looked into it and actually just reached out to her because there was a lot of people who were like, hey, this sounds like this probably fits. And so I have no idea how it will turn out. I think it's a journey worth going on. Obviously, Elon Musk has the funds to do so, but they are doing it to protect their platform. Elon didn't say anyone from any company who gets fired for free speech, he will cover their legal bills, but it is in relation to X. But the funny thing, I think I'd listed as my number one takeaway from the Gina Carano situation when I did my video in the past, when I covered this, when this was all kind of fresh news, is that Gina was not into politics really that much. She was seeking these things out. She was learning things about it. And she just would put out a couple opinions. And I can see people being offended by the opinions, but they're not like they're super strong opinions, a meme here, a joke here, etc. But people came at her so strongly, and obviously she got fired. And I was just kind of like, you could have came at her and had a conversation. You could have tried to educate her, what people try to do or whatever. But the reaction that she got, just I'm like, if you guys wanted her to be on the left or even in the middle, I think she probably doesn't consider herself too far right or anything like that. But if people wanted to kind of woo her back, you could have freaking wooed her. You could have had a conversation, but trying to make her some kind of alt-right, whatever, is probably solidified that, you know what? I don't know what I believe, but I know I can't be with those people. I know I can't rock with those guys. I know I can't like them because they hate me, want to destroy me. So you blew your opportunity. You blew your opportunity. So I wish her all the best with her case, and it's just inquiries are there. So I don't know. Maybe we'll reach out. Maybe she'll come on the show. My platform is much smaller than hers, but who knows? I'll put myself out there. I'd love to talk to Gina about all this. I thought what happened to her was pretty bum. Anyway, very very interesting story. Let's get to the Bud Light stuff. That's the title of the episode, so I'm sure that's why many of you here are here. So, Donald Trump, um, apparently wants people to drink Bud Light again, and it's a little cray cray. It's a little cray cray, and you may be thinking, why? You may be thinking, why? Um, Flashback a little bit. Why did people stop drinking Bud Light? So, some time ago, Dylan Mulvaney, he's the dude who does the Days of Girlhood. A lot of people don't actually think Dylan is trans or whatever, but whatever, that's his identity. Not his identity as that he's actually a woman, but his what he's playing as, I guess. So he would just do this journey of being a girl, and he lists the day, and he'd talk about what he did that day or whatever. And the early stuff that he did, very much like he had some things that were pretty insulting toward different women. He's since apologized from his very stereotypical and demeaning post. But he's obviously not a woman. He has a huge following. I don't even know how many billions right now on TikTok. I haven't gone to his page in a long time, but he has a huge following. Huge following. So Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light took advantage of his very large platform and decided to have some ads with Dylan. Now, I've done ads on TikTok. Someone reaches out to you within TikTok and they have like a set amount or whatever you maybe perhaps that they offer. You say yes, you do the ad, they sponsor it, etc. They did send him specialized cans. But I don't think I don't like was there some kind of major wooing of let's bring Dylan into Bud Light to be like you're going to be our new face, our new star. It probably wasn't like that at all. But it's like, hey, they reach out and do that on the app. You might get an email or something and work out the details. And they might have said, hey, we'll send you some special cans for your Days of Girl. They see all these millions of people that he has that are following him. They're probably like, easy promo, easy money, easy money. So they sent specialized cans. He'd had two different ads. In one, but he was just like in the bathtub, and there's oh yeah, one he had the can set up and he was dressed in black, and the other one he's like in the bathtub doing some kind of goofy dance. And they were for like March Madness that they were promoting, and he didn't even know what March Madness was, which you know might be like, bruh, this is like the wrong kind of branding. Everything is kind of wrong as far as this goes. But people were upset about it and immediately wanted to boycott Bud Light. And people did boycott Bud Light. And they lost money. And it was a very successful boycott. And the reason why it's a successful boycott, because Matt Walsh was like, this is like our one very successful boycott. Why should we just abandon it for no strategic reason? And I think the reason why it was successful is not because conservatives have just such amazing willpower that we were able to kind of get it all together. It's because one, it transcended beyond like commands on the internet. It was beyond Twitter. It was beyond TikTok. It was beyond Facebook. Like I was at a meeting for like a charity event. Someone mentioned like they're talking about the drinks that we were having. People were like, no Bud Light. And these aren't people who are like chronically online like we are, but it just permeated into real life. So it was beyond just being a thing that we talk about on the internet. And two, they ruined their brand. People hear Bud Light, they associate it with a guy in a bathtub dancing goofy, being a caricature of a woman. They think woke, they think trans, they think, and I'm sure trans people who love a good beer and other stuff like that. I'm not just saying like it's a straight cis white dude, kind of thing with the Bud Light, but they there's a certain kind of image that usually that they have when they paint these Bud Light commercials, and they're usually people who know who what March Madness is. Like, people would buy this stuff for Super Bowl parties and other things like that. So it's just really not the brand. Partnering with Dylan wasn't a good brand move. Did it get eyes? Did it get views? Were there clicks? Did somebody buy the beer? Sure, but ultimately it really ended up hurting them. You can't say it's not, because they're still out here trying to get people to beg for them on their behalf to go back to drinking their beer. Some people said they just always hated Bud Light anyway. I wouldn't know what it tastes like, but Donald Trump has decided to not tweet, but on Truth Social, on their behalf, to plead with the people to consider drinking it once again. So my concern there, uh, well, we'll just look at it first and go from there. So Donald Trump said the Bud Light ad was a mistake of epic proportions, and for that, a very big price was paid. But Anheuser-Busch is not a woke company. But I can give you plenty that are, excuse me, and building a list, and might just release it for the world to see. Why not? The radical left does it viciously to well run conservative companies and people. Very nasty. But it's the way they play the game. On the other hand, Anheuser-Busch spends $700 million a year with our great farmers, employs 65,000 Americans, which 1,500 are veterans, and is a founding corporate partner of Folds of Honor, which provides scholarships for families of fallen servicemen and women. They've raised over 30 million and given 44,000 scholarships. Anheuser-Busch is a great American brand that perhaps deserves a second chance. What do you think? Perhaps instead we should be going after those companies that are looking to destroy America. So it's an American brand. It is not an American company. Uh it got like bought out some time ago. Um they do employ a lot of people. They have done a lot of good work. If you're going by that metric, though, we could easily point to a lot of stuff that Disney does for the betterment of humanity with scholarships and employing people and so on. So if that's just the metric we're going by, there's a lot of companies that are woke or whatever that give back in all kinds of different ways. So there's that. But he's saying that Bud Light is not woke. Well, people are saying in response to Trump, was there an apology? Was there an apology? Or do you just expect to be forgiven? Because there wasn't really an apology from Bud Light to acknowledge what they did. And they need to complete the humiliation ritual, I suppose, in order to get back those people. And so there's some people who are saying, I love Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump, but I'm not going to drink Bud Light. I'm not going to do it. Interesting that he's saying he has a list of woke companies and he might put it out there, I guess, to further drive people to boycott those brands or whatever. Um, but really made the time out to write about Bud Light. Now you might be saying, why? Why did he do this? Because Bud Light gives to him. They're like giving money to him to do like fundraisers and other stuff like that. It's probably really that simple. Um, I wonder how many people who are different influencers who are like coming against Bud Light pretty hard are going to have a change of heart, and encourage their listeners to like, maybe we should give him a chance. Maybe we should. At his behest. Now, this isn't like a tough, you should forgive. He's trying to woo. He's sending out a signal. And then there are people who are like putting the who receive the message so far. I can show you a couple examples. But This is from an article. Former President Donald Trump offered to an olive branch to Anheuser-Busch on Tuesday, issuing a post on a social media platform calling on conservatives to drop their opposition to the besieged beer company. Um, but the topic says Trump on eve of fundraiser with Anheuser-Busch lobbyists defend the company. Oh, are you transparent, sir? Aren't you transparent? Now, I'm not saying they don't do good things, but again, so does Disney. A lot of these companies do good things. A lot of these companies employ people. OnlyFans employs a lot of people, self-employed people who put money in their pockets so they can do whatever the heck. That doesn't mean that you approve of that place existing because it's contributing to their economic growth. And so just because companies do good thing doesn't, especially just because they do a good thing for you, doesn't mean that everyone should just back off and start buying it again. So, but what's really kind of funny is that Trump put out this thing on True Social, and this is Caitlyn Jenner's page here, and he said, as someone that worked for this incredible company, American company, which again, I think it was probably American back when he ran or whatever, but uh and it's not now though. And got to know them very well. I raced for Anheuser-Busch in the 80s. I agree with real Donald Trump. He's like, look what the company has done for so many Americans and their track record over the years. They made a huge mistake and have paid a large price. I think it is time to move forward. I'm saying we should focus on the big picture, agreeing with 45. So people are mentioning, pointing out, if you're trying to convince that people that Budweiser isn't woke over the Dylan Mulvaney trans situation, getting your token trans person to echo the sentiment isn't probably the greatest idea, though I'm not saying that Trump coordinated that, but Bruce there probably wasn't the best person to talk about this. Probably wasn't. By the way, once upon a time, here's some tweets from the past. Everyone switched to Happy Dad. Bud Light went too far this time. King Gavin gaslighting Target executives and voters for trying to correct their woke pride BS for children trying to avoid their Bud Light movement a little too late. Wake up, America. This doesn't stop here. You're black, you're Asian, you're Jewish, you're a woman. Oh, Mike Sington. Kid Rock knows, the whole company knows, the whole customer base knows. The difference between Happy Dad and Bud Light is that Happy Dad knows their customers and they know their customers love me. Happy Planet Tyrus. And maybe, just maybe, Greg got filled at, I think, a keg this weekend. It is. But I vote we get a keg of Happy Dad. Haha, not the Bud Lights. So, quick shift here. And maybe people are changing their minds. Because, these tweets, they're from last year. So maybe they're like, usually enough time has passed. Or maybe just they got the signal from the big man. So they're changing their mind. So here's someone made this meme with the MAGA hats, like protecting Bud Light with the conservatives trying to end it. Now, to be fair, though, I thought this was a humorous meme. However, there are plenty of MAGA folks, because I already had posted a short video about this on YouTube, on my YouTube shorts. And there's already people who are like, I love Trump, but I'm not in a cult, and I'm not gonna drink Bud Light just because he said so. So there's definitely folks who, aren't gonna jump on that train just because Trump said to do it. Um, However, there's folks out there ripping and ready, roaring and ready to go. Um, there was another example that I had. Excuse me. Ooh, sorry. Had a cough. Can't find it. But we'll move on. Ooh, sorry. It's a crazy cough. Before I move on to the last thing I want to say about the Bud Light thing. Let me take a little more sip of water. Ooh. I have a cold, but getting over the hump is not as crazy as my other colds have been. But yeah, that was a moment. Sorry. One thing about the Trump Bud Light situation, I don't like alcohol. I've never had alcohol. I will never, of my own volition, anyway, consume it or anything. So help my eye doesn't went crazy, but so I don't know if I might trigger somebody because I know people like their booze, but observing politics, it's concerning to me how much people love alcohol because there's really a lot of people that like it too much. I've worked with people in politics who had really big problems with it. Really big problems. And when people were flipping out like about Kavanaugh and his I like beer stuff and were acting like he was the worst guy in the world, I thought people were so hypocritical because I'm like, I know you guys love to drink. Like, I know you guys love to drink. And I know you guys know a lot of people who love to drink. Politics, booze, it's like booze all the time at these different events and other stuff. And I to me it's weird. And I know they're giving him money. I know they're doing a fundraiser for him. And I know they do a lot of things. They employ a lot of people. But it's like, isn't there like other companies you could go rah for other than like Bud Light? You know, especially because Trump knows the dangers of the demon in the bottle because his brother Fred had problems and died of complications that his family believes was due to his alcoholism. And that's why Trump doesn't drink. Donald Trump doesn't drink. No, he's not against alcohol. He'll serve it at his, hotels and events and I believe other families members, drink and stuff. But he doesn't drink because of what happened with his brother. So, I don't want to, well, I didn't get on here today to like demonize everybody who necessarily does, but I'm not a fan. But I would much rather that not be the thing that people are trying to really push within the presidential season. Especially someone being a former president and probably future president once again. So lots of companies you can uplift for their service and other things that they do. Getting this list of things to really make the case, laying it on really thick. At the end of the day, I don't like their product. So they never lost me as a customer. But there are other beer drinkers who said it tastes like piss water. So no, I don't think Trump's plea is going to make enough people come back to Bud Light. If Bud Light wants to solve the problem, they have to disassociate their brand with the Dylan Mulvaney situation. And so people aren't going to forgive them unless they really ask if people need to see some kind of repentance there for like the stubborn folks like Matt Walsh, etc., to the people who are sticking to their guns on it. Before ordinary people who are just kind of like, who have the ick. Like people have the ick from Bud Light. They hear Bud Light and they associate it with Dylan and the rainbows and all that stuff. They're not into it. They want to think about football and cars and whatever. So you have to find a way to get that visual out of people's heads, to get that original branding back. And that'll take time. And as much as credit as I like to give Matt Walsh and many conservatives who are sticking to their guns, I'm not trying to say that didn't help, that the organization didn't help. But really, why it is a successful boycott is because they destroyed their brand. They damaged it themselves. So be careful who you get into bed with, or at least the bathtub. Moving on. Before I show you guys, or we talk about the Ronna McDaniel situation, I saw this video with Peter Doocy asking the press secretary about the border, and saying, because they're saying, oh, well, I'll just show you the Doocy clip.
So you guys talk a lot, including today, about how the border wouldn't be such a big deal if Congress would have just passed your immigration bill on day one. Who was in charge of Congress on day one?
So it's been 3 years. It's been three whole years, more than 3 years, more than 1,000 days. And look, this is a difficult issue, obviously. This is a difficult issue. And what we have said is that Congress has to act, right? Congress, Democrats, Republicans have to act. But in those 3 years, it is true that Republicans have gotten in the way. They just have, Peter. They have consistently used immigration, the immigration system, the broken system, as a political stunt. That's what they've done. They've gotten in the way in trying to get more Border Patrol agents. They've gotten in the way in actually trying to fix what's happening, the challenges at the border. They did.
Well, in case you couldn't pick that up, Biden we retook the House this in the midterm, not by the margins that we wanted to, but in 2022 we retook the House, as in we didn't have it before. So Biden had control, and if they're saying, well, Congress could have done something, why couldn't you do something with the united government that you had? Because you didn't want to protect the border. By the way, Secretary Mayorkas, they were going through impeachment hearings and stuff with him, and so the House opted to not do that. There wasn't enough Republican support. I felt kind of about it. To me, I felt like if you're going to go after Secretary Mayorkas over the border and him not doing his job, he serves at the pleasure of the president. And he's doing the job how the president probably wants him to do the job. So if he's not doing his job, that's a reflection on the president. It's not like Biden is going out there saying, "Oh, my secretary is Mayorkas. He's just doing it. He's not doing his job. He's not fulfilling his oath. He's not handling the border well. Like, he's ruining it on purpose, and he's not, executing his duties." It's not like there's some kind of disfocus from Mayorkas and Biden. He's serving at the pleasure of the president, doing the will of the president. I would assume the White House isn't suggesting there's some kind of level of incompetency here. We can see the incompetency, but we like to assume it's incompetency, but I think we know too much, and we know that it's deliberate destruction. It's chaos harnessed like a laser and pointed out at the border. So if they felt that it was so important to go after Mayorkas and impeach him on those grounds, and if they really felt like they had a strong case to do that, they can't make the case to impeach Biden and saying that there's just a dereliction of duty as far as the border goes, especially because they know that Texas tried to go out their way to do something about the border, and then they went ahead and they sued Texas. So there is some kind of like, and the courts are going through like who has the right to do what or whatever, but there is an obstruction, obviously. They're fighting for people to be able to come here. And even Biden, what they want to be able to process people faster into the interior or whatever, not necessarily send people back. They want ushers. That's what they want. They want to fund more ushers. They want to fund people who can make them PB&Js and then send them off on their merry way or something. They don't want to use Border Patrol to actually patrol the border and keep people from coming here and then sending people back. That's not what they want, right? So if Biden is truly not executing his duties, and you feel that that's an impeachable offense with Mayorkas, just go to the source, because he's not misaligned with Biden there. And maybe you can say, well, there's not a strong case to do that. Okay, then there's not a strong case and you just need to vote him out. So to me, I'm saying it's theatrics. It's theatrics. Because even if you got rid of Mayorkas, he's just going to replace him with someone maybe just as worse. I mean, maybe just as bad or worse. Maybe just as bad or worse. Biden hasn't picked good people for things. So impeaching Mayorkas, I can understand the sentiment, people being upset about the border and feeling he's not doing his duty, because he's not. He's not. But he is probably doing his duty according to what the president's vision is. So if there's a problem there, you got to go for the big man. But impeaching Biden would just that'd be a bad situation with having Kamala Harris be the president for the past couple months. So it's a really big crap sandwich. It really is. And what Republicans could do, but they have such a small margin. I mean, they could keep pushing. They should just write up the executive orders or things that Trump had before and just push it through and be like, you guys wanted something, so here's the thing. Sign it into law, Biden. And which you won't do. But they I guess they need some kind of alternative narrative, because basically the bipartisan Senate immigration bill, Steve Deese said it was basically like the life jacket for Democrats on this border issue, because they're pointing and saying, well, Republicans said they wanted something, it's a bipartisan thing, and now they won't sign it, and they won't go along with it because Trump told them not to, and they just want to have this to run on because they want it for politics, but they don't really want to solve the problem. So shame on all those Senate Republicans who entertained this or said that they would support it or worked on it, because it's not a good bill. Not a good bill. Last thing I want to mention before I let you go is Ronna McDaniel is stepping down from the RNC. Excuse me. So it's pretty big news. I found out I guess it was late last night. It was maybe like 8:30-ish or something. It was before I was on my way to go to the movies with my family. We were getting ready to go. We saw Argyle last night. And so I was on the phone talking to my older sister about it, because we both worked at the Michigan Republican Party while Ronna was chair. So a lot of people were talking about Ronna in the abstract. I do know this woman. So it was just kind of wild to us and unexpected, because I know that she has higher political aspirations. I've mentioned a couple times, the people in the know, at least in Michigan, that she wants to be the governor of Michigan. that she was just going to finish out her term. She wanted to do this one more term as the chair of the RNC, and then she planned to come back to Michigan and start on her gubernatorial campaign. I don't know if that's still in the cards after all that. Now, people have been very unhappy. We've talked about a lack of fundraising. We've talked about spending that they've done, because even with the little money that they've raised, they spent it in ways like on ridiculous money on limousines, and other stuff like that, as opposed to like really doing things for ballots and voter files and text messages and other stuff like that. They're just not being fiscally responsible like Republicans should be. And the fundraising is very, very down compared to all the fundraising, the money they used to do. So at first she was just kind of like a juggernaut coming in with the fundraising, and things are vastly different now. And people have soured because we've had loss after loss after loss. So Ronna came in at the RNC after Trump won in 2016, and she was the only chair who pledged her delegate to Trump. So that's how she got his attention, I guess. So we had a successful cycle. Michigan was a very good state party, and she ended up being named as the RNC chair. So actually, he was supposed to announce it at a Thank You Michigan rally or something. It was on the west side of the state. I was in the crowd that night, and so were other staff members, because we were like expecting for him to announce it, and then he didn't announce it, and we're just kind of like, what the heck? And so I guess then they talked later privately. He's like, yeah, it's going to be you, but he just for whatever reason didn't announce it that night. But obviously he made good on the promise, and she ended up being the chair. And from there, the RNC really kind of melded into Trump world, and it was I don't care how much you love Trump. There's some things about like campaigning and other things, at least strategically for other people, that they're not great at. Like Trump, he has huge name ID, he has huge reach, etc. Himself as an entity, but like a lot of like on the ground stuff, and even picking particular candidates, and so there's just some lacking there. And so a lot of mistakes are made along the way. There's times when people would be untruthful about data. There'd be like times the RNC would research different voters, how they felt about Trump or whatever. They knew they had an issue with suburban white women, and then Brad Parscale, who was the Trump campaign manager at the time, would go on TV and just be like, "Oh, we're not saying that in our data and other stuff." They just like blatantly kind of lie. And I understand you don't want to tell, like, I don't know, CNN something, but but you say things, and then it makes people who are on the ground, who are knocking doors for you, whatever, feel too lax about the situation if you just tell them it's in the bag and you kind of deny polling or different issues, that are going on. Like I hated when they'd have rallies and they'd be like, "Oh, all these people who weren't Republicans or whatever, registered or not registered to vote or whatever, but signed up for the rallies." And they made it seem like there's all these non-Democrats going to the rallies or whatever. But there'd be people who would sign up for the rallies because they don't understand. When you sign up for the rally, you're not actually like saving a ticket spot. They're just capturing your name for data. Really. They may look at your name or whatever to get in, but it's not really that deep. Like if you're in a special spot, you're gonna have to do like Secret Service checks or whatever, etc. But they basically want you to sign up so they can have your information or whatever captured. So there'd be people who would just sign up for the rallies thinking that they would just max out and then people wouldn't be able to get in. Because my sister would have to do follow-up calls with some of these people, and they'd be like, "Oh, I signed up my friend as a joke," like, or whatever, different stuff like that. So just because there's a bunch of Democrats, or I don't even know how they got all these numbers all the time, be like, oh, X amount of people who aren't Republican even signed up for this Trump rally, giving people kind of like a false sense of where America is at. And your people who are supposed to knock doors, make phone calls, who need a proper kind of assessment about the election, and you're kind of wooing them into this false sense of security. So I could list a bunch of different things that I could complain about election wise, but anyway, things were not good after loss after loss after loss. So Ronna McDaniel did have a challenger last time she was up for election, and Trump's campaign people were getting votes for Ronna. They were making phone calls and stuff. They were whipping votes for Ronna. He still wanted Ronna to be the chair. So there's a lot of people who've complained about Ronna nonstop for the past year or so. And I always thought it was strange because I'm like, okay, but this is still Trump's girl. She's in that position because Trump wanted her to be in that position. Now, there's other reports, though, that Trump began to sour on Ronna because he really, really wanted the RNC to not have debates at all. Now, that probably shouldn't be news to you because Trump all the time said that there shouldn't be debates. He said that, he'd put stuff on social media about it. And they put out emails about it, complaining about the debates, how they need to focus on, the general election, blah, 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 etc., fundraising for him and get out the vote. And they did not want there to be primary, which, by the way, that's wasn't really news either to me before he started like putting messages or whatever out there, because Trump was kind of working within different state parties to try to change even how some primaries were done that would be more favorable to him. So he didn't want any challengers. And so he, of course, refused to do any debates with anyone. And I don't think the RNC was behind the debates. Any of them like pretty much happened in the new year that they were sanctioned. And then everybody else, of course, signed the pledge that they would support the nominee. Trump didn't sign such a pledge. And even if he wanted to participate in the debates, it didn't kind of seem like they would require him to sign that to still participate. It doesn't seem like that pressure was there. But our RNC didn't put any other sort of stipulations on Trump to support the nominee wholeheartedly in case he wasn't the nominee. And Trump wouldn't agree to that anyway. So perhaps he did sour on her with that, and them not just kind of bending the knee with that. I think they were still soft in his favor, but if he wanted them just gone, and then they basically shut that down, because the DNC basically shut down. They're like, we are not having debates. That's stupid. Biden is our nominee. He's our incumbent president. Trump wanted to be treated like an incumbent president, not have any kind of debates or anything. So still, even when he would go on different interviews, he wouldn't say bad things about Ronna. He would defend her. But it is possible that he had everyone else, different influencers and folks, blasting her, putting up this pressure. So even though he didn't have to say something himself and put on that heat, they created enough smoke to make it so that there was this pressure for her to have to step down. So she was summoned to Mar-a-Lago, and I guess recommended or said he wanted to make some changes or whatever. So she's supposed to be stepping down after the South Carolina primary. I do not know who she will be replaced with. McCarthy is a rumor, which probably wouldn't be bad for fundraising, to be honest, but which they do need someone who's going to raise an astronomical amount of money very quickly. Someone hit on my YouTube comments has suggested, and they're a usual person who pops up in my feeds, and we have good conversations. So I like this commenter and stuff, but they said, well, it should be Vivek. I was like, Vivek, they're not going to pick. This isn't something that we all get to decide on Twitter. This isn't something that we all get to go to a ballot box and decide. Every the states, they have a national committee man and national committee woman, and they get to vote on that. And I do not think that these people, just mentioning Vivek as a possibility, will want it to be someone who voted for the Republican president one time, and had some pretty interesting policy positions not too long ago, like in his book when he wrote about the inheritance tax being a moral duty. I mentioned that quite a bit because people were like, he's more libertarian. I'm like, is that a libertarian position? So I think that will not go smoothly with Vivek, especially, just to be frank, I don't think they will all vote for a Hindu man who made fun of a woman for converting to Christianity. And yes, Vivek did a dig at Nikki Haley for changing her name and converting to Christianity. So he did it as a dig, like, oh, it'd be really easy for me to like change my name and convert. And now, like, so so he did a dig at her, and I don't foresee that happening. And Trump will basically be a driving force to who is going to be the next RNC chair, just like he was the force, to decide Ronna. And but I don't know. I think his choice for VP and his choice for like who's going to go on for the RNC chair will say a lot about his mentality with how he expects to win 2024. Is it going to be like he just wants some people who are going to do just echo whatever he says and be the Trump clapping seal, or is he going to get some people who are going to go along with the MAGA vision overall, but are going to be a driving force for getting those extra dollars or getting those extra votes where he maybe can't reach? I don't know. I don't know what he will ultimately decide to do. But if Ronna didn't want to step down, I would say she doesn't really have the political capital to stand up against Trump. If he wanted her gone, it was going to start making her life miserable publicly, unless she did it. So maybe she felt like ultimately didn't make sense for her not to step down if he really wanted her to step down, if he was going to start coming at her. And maybe there was a condition that she steps down and he still backs her for the governor race, because that's what she really wants to do. And maybe she could even start to build that up and focus on that a bit. I don't know. But I would think, though, that resigning in this way, and we'll just say in disgrace, and then running for governor isn't a good look. Is that a good look? Because in Michigan, we are pretty blue right now. You can say we're purple, but we're trending blue, and it's all blue control right now. And if she's the nominee, it's going to be like your name to fame here is you being the RNC chair, the Michigan Republican Party chair for a term, but RNC chair. And why would all these Democrats or moderates or whatever who don't like Republicans or don't like Trump, don't rock with Trump or whatever, and you were a girl, like, why would they vote for you? So that's already a thing against him. But then to not really have a successful kind of run as the RNC chair, it I don't see if she had to take that dive in exchange for him maybe backing her, how that is ultimately going to help her. But people who really want something could be delusional about things. So I don't know. To me, all this is very surprising. Not totally surprising that he had wanted to step down, especially if he was really, really mad about the debates. but her, I can see it all happening. Like it makes sense, but I just have holes in the story, and I'm questioning how it got to this point. And I wish I could be a fly on the wall somewhere in the past to have heard some things. Again, I'm not saying she's my BFF or something, but I do know Ronna. She's not just like an abstract figure to me. And it's just a really interesting turn of events. But she's supposed to step down after the South Carolina primary. And they assume that Nikki Haley will drop out before or after then. Because them capitulating to Trump on a bunch of RNC stuff while someone else is in the race, I don't think is a great thing. But they probably suspect that Nikki will call it a quits by then. And I don't see her picking up steam elsewhere. I think it's pretty inevitable right now, unless something happens with Trump himself that he'll be the nominee. So just interesting stuff. Interesting news day. Interesting news day. Side note, I did enjoy the movie. Agent Argyle. It was wacky, sort of fun. And I'm not a big wacky person, but it was fun. And Henry Cavill is always cute. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream to run my website, all the stuff so you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can check out my different merch available at blacktnews.com, like this cool Frederick Douglass shirt here. I've got the Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document. I got this My Money, My Business t-shirt, because people are like, is that your business? I'm like, are my taxpayer dollars going for it? Because it kind of seems like it's my business if you want my money. So we got that shirt and of course the mug and stuff. So go ahead and check out the merch. And you guys can also, on that merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website where you can learn a little bit more about my books. I have 17 that are all together. 2 are nonfiction, the rest are fiction. And one of my nonfiction books is, of course, God Is Blatantly Against Abortion. You guys can check that out. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and stuff. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.